What's going on, everyone? Adam Gelman here with a monumental day in wrestling cards. And I am so shocked that we are here recording this video. And I think we had to get the 4 OGs from this channel to sort of get, I'm sad that we don't do this more often. I want to get these conversations with all of us on a panel much more frequently, but this was the first time I think we all just drove as quickly as we could to get to a recording because this is an insane day. And we'll talk about The Rock and the Prizm 101 sale that happened on PWC last night. Let's do some quick introductions. For once, I don't think anybody is unfamiliar with who's on video, so we'll just do it quick. Tony, the OG himself, what's going on, my friend?
What is happening? I don't know what the hell's going on with me.
Just trying to play some music. All right, Paul.
I just dropped my phone, but yeah. It's just me.
Hey guys, Paul and Ann from the Wrestling Card Price Guy. What an exciting day. All sorts of shit to talk about.
Oh my God.
Man,
yeah.
So exciting. Ryan, my partner in crime, how's it going, sir?
Going great. Instagram at Non-Sports Showcase. You guys know me. I'm on most of these videos.
And I am Adam Gelman.
Today and recorded.
Yeah, we should. That's what you guys should have been in the same room together. I think that would be awesome.
Right.
I'm Adam Gelman. You can find me at WWE Gelman on Instagram, at SC Uncensored on Twitter. But I've gathered the crew together because if you guys haven't seen and you've been living under a rock for the last hour or two since you've gotten up, The Rock's 1-of-1 Prizm card has sold for 6 figures, which is something we never expected, $125,000. We've had an announcement from the buyer on Instagram. We've had all sorts of publicity from all sorts of influencer accounts across the hobby. I think where I want to start, if that's okay, is let's see, like, what was your initial reaction when you woke up this morning and you saw the final price was $125,000? Paul, what was your initial reaction to seeing that number?
Let me say at the outset, I was going to bring on some champagne and crack it open with you guys and celebrate.
Right.
And if I'd gotten more than 4.5 hours sleep last night, that's what we'd be doing. But I figured if I do that, I'm gonna pass out on you. But here on the East Coast, I was up till about 1:30 when I finally said, okay, enough. I'm just going to go to sleep and see what it went for in the morning. And at that point, it was at 1:20, and then as soon as my brain clicked in at 6 a.m., I'm like, I gotta go see. So I ran, and there it was, 126, and I mistakenly thought that was 126. And maybe Ryan, you can explain this to me. Why is it all night last night we saw a net price, and then this morning when they finally produced the final number 126, it's a gross price. So I thought it was 126 plus the premium, but just to be clear, because I did post it incorrectly, it was in fact 126 with the buyer's premium included. I can make the mistake. Oh well, I'm in Canada, so it's a Canadian price, but I'm still a little.
Yeah, you're good. We're gonna get to sort of the auction house sort of process here.
Yeah, but
it's a great question.
To answer your question, what was my reaction? It's like, dude, I was the guy that posted the Hogan All-Star 4 weeks ago and said, yeah, it's not likely that this thing's ever going to get
right.
passed. I was a guy that this weekend said, I think those Vince Transcendents, they stand a chance of equaling these Rock Prizms, a year ago when you, Adam, we're touting close to 6 figures. And I think the guys I spoke to always sort of alluded to around 60, low 60s on the first go round. I was always hesitant to sort of accept these prices because we'd never been through this exercise. And for the third time, so, there's no more disputing the data, the facts. We had 2 people that wanted this one. We've been through the exercise now. This is the biggest sale of a wrestling card ever. And it's incredible. It's incredible for a number of reasons. But again, to answer your question, I was just blown away. I was blown away last night, even when you were not talking in the low 20s, Adam, last night. And I was conceding then that it was going to be
right.
You and I, neither of us had a clue. We had no idea. And then when I started alluding to that, well, if it was a PS9, maybe it overtakes the Hogan one day. We had no idea. Then it overtakes the Hogan. Now we're talking about, is it going to go over $1? And I said to Tony, not a fucking chance. And it goes over $100,000. And I was like, this is so cool. Can I say, guys, I've been doing this for a long time. Was this the biggest night ever in the history of our hobby? Like, I have never, ever followed an auction like that, even on stuff I buy for myself, like that.
Right, exactly.
A few weeks ago, I put the auction, went to bed, and did I get it or not in the morning? But this, I couldn't tear myself away. When we spoke this morning, I was still bleary-eyed.
Exactly.
I need some sleep. But,
we had it up. We had it up on the big screen. We were in the den on the big screen. I had a drink, and we were doing dances. My son and I went because he's 13 and he's just getting to a point where he likes to stay up late. And we were really following along. I was live tweeting it. It was a great time. And like I think to your point, Paul, like, is this the biggest night for wrestling cards? I have to feel like it is. Like, what other night would be out there that could ever equal
do you ever
wrestling
remember
card?
a night like this where we were texting back and forth? We were talking. I was talking with you, Adam, Tony, a couple of other guys, a couple of non-Prism guys too. So that was an interesting discussion, on both ends, and just completely blown away. Like no one could say, "Oh yeah, I knew it was going to go over 100,000." Nobody knew. We had no clue, and we're all just stunned, and we're stunned, right? Adam. Yeah. You're the guy that predicted this, and you're stunned. So at the end of the day, that gives you an idea of how big a jolt this was to all of us into the hobby. So yeah, I'd go out on a limb and say it was the biggest night that I can ever remember in the hobby, where I was just so minute by minute watch this thing go, wow.
It was incredible.
Yeah,
so Ryan, what about you? What was your initial reaction here as you were sort of witnessing this all go down?
It's like a roller coaster. It was, we all kind of jumped in with a couple hours to go, and it was like 22 grand or something like that, and it was like click, 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 with the precipice being 54,000, which is the Hogan.
Right.
Click, 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 and then it hit it, and then whoosh, we went for the ride. And did I think it was $100,000 card in this market? No. Yeah. But I'm happy about it. Obviously, I think whatever camp you fall in, you have to appreciate what has just happened for your hobby. Put your own prejudices and your bias aside, and whatever fuels your fire in the hobby, whether it's collecting, monetary, whatever, you have to appreciate what just happened last night. This is a big deal. It's really a big deal. And where do we go from here is really the question, because what card is going to top this? What card's going to top this? Could a Rock Superfractor autograph in
I don't think so. I was tweeting that last night, man. Like, I think let's say that for whatever reason Rock's contract gets done, he's signing cards. And let's say because Panini only has a year or two left of this license, let's say that happens under the new Fanatics license. And they put out a Topps Chrome autograph Superfractor of the Rock, which by hobby standards is the only equivalent that Topps can offer. Does it get to this price? I don't think so. Like, well, I just don't.
You guys tell us, because so much of this, we hang our hats on what Prizm has done in other sports, and it's first year Prizm, the black of the top name in the set, right?
Yeah.
So there's never going to be that again, right? No. We can talk about the Hogan, unless it's a PSA 10 surfaces, and it hasn't happened yet, so it's not likely. It's not coming from there. So it's a while, guys, before we see this again, I think.
Tony, what about your reactions here?
I equal to everybody else's. I mean, we sat here all night last night, texting each other back and forth. I'm watching your live tweets. Like, I don't have to follow the actual auction itself live. I've got Adam out there, just got 25, 27, 40. Oh my God. And it's just like, again, like Ryan's example is perfect. Like, it's just this roller coaster of tick, 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 tick. As soon as they hit that 54, 55, I'm like, it's just a downhill. Whoa, here comes the loops. And here come, I mean, it's just an adrenaline rush of just watching it. And I stayed up right around when it hit about 100 and a little over $100,000 like that. I was stayed up and I go, okay, I don't want to look at my Christmas presents all right tonight. I want to wait till tomorrow for the big one and open it up. And I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to wake up. I got to take care of my kid, get him ready for school. And then I just saw all the messages. And I'm just like, okay, what the hell just happened? And the way things have been going in the hobby for the last year plus, I thought, oh, it got downed, or something negative happened, or whatever happened. Nope. It's been an incredible week across many fronts, and this is just like the biggest part of it. It's just watching this, and it's I'm blown away. I'm happy for the hobby. It's exactly what the hobby's been screaming about for years. To be accepted. I've been saying this for the last 2 years since starting a podcast about You want to be accepted. You want to be acknowledged. You take the good, you take the bad, and there you have the facts of life. It's just it's good for for everybody. Everybody. Now where it goes from here, that's anybody's guess. Will this ever be eclipsed? Yeah, I think it will be someday. It's going to be a long time from now. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. I think it's just all around good for our hobby. If you can't, if again, like Ryan said, if whatever camp you're in, if you can't wrap your head around this and what it means to the hobby, I don't know what you're doing in the hobby. I really don't know what you're doing in the hobby.
There's no camps.
So let's
no
pause. Let's pause right there. Let's pause right there. Hold on a second. So Ryan and I are clearly in the modern camp. That's where our focus is. I just want to know, we've brought all of these people on these shows, especially this one. Paul, you're kind of a mixed bag. You collect both. Tony, you're kind of all over the place as well. Like, we are coming from all walks of life in this hobby right now on this video. And on the other videos too. I mean, we've brought in people who own stores. We've brought in people who have sold cards on eBay and whatnot and whatever. This video, you have a really good representation of literally every walk of life in the hobby, this particular video. And here we are telling you across all of our perspectives, all four of us have now given our thoughts. This was one of the biggest, if not the biggest nights for wrestling cards. So to Ryan's point, to Tony's point, celebrate this. This is fun. This is supposed to be a great time.
Yep. That's what it's all about. If you're in this business, not a business, I shouldn't say, if you're in this hobby and you're not taking some kind of fun in it, no matter what, I don't care if it's from a collecting standpoint. If you're in it for an investment standpoint, if you're not having fun with your investments, if you're not having fun with your collecting, then get the hell out.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's supposed to be fun at the end of the day.
Preach, brother.
This has been a monumental week on both from a high end level to our own little wrestling card collecting set we put out. And seeing, I told Paul yesterday, I'm so happy. I haven't been this happy in this hobby in a while, because I told Paul, you realize that we just kind of injected a bit of positivity in this hobby. We're seeing people going in and taking the trading of trading cards to its actual core meaning.
Right.
And it's been so fun watching people pull other things. I mean, just everybody's cards and having fun doing it. And it's been the biggest thing to have this rock sale on top of that. Holy shit, what a great fucking week it has been.
You know what I was doing, guys, really this morning? This morning, I was calling my my buddies up here, my business buddies, and going, "Hey guys, wrestling card just sold out last night for 126 US." You know, so for me, it's like,
I texted my dad.
You know, for all the shit that I've taken over the years. You know, it's like, well, guess what you guys are about to hear. You know?
I had to call. I talked to David Porter this morning, who's the co-owner of WTC all these years. And, you know, he doesn't follow as much, and he doesn't watch any of these videos really. And I told him, he goes, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "Are you?" And so I explained to him, because he didn't grasp the concept of what this means to our hobby. I said, it adds a huge stamp of approval to the validity of our hobby and what we mean to the rest of cardboard collectors out there. It's not to be overlooked, and it's a huge, to me, the biggest day in our hobby.
So hey, if it would have been 30 or 40, I think we would have been dancing around.
I think that's what I'm saying too.
I said to you earlier last week, Adam, if it gets to 30, that's a smashing success. You agree?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, my number was nowhere near six figures. No, and I think
that's the thing. 126 is just mind blowing to me.
I think just
a wrestling card.
For one more point, and then we can move on to the next section. This is really the coming out party for modern.
Absolutely.
This is it. And what happened last night, like I said, is a big deal. It's a big deal. It needs to be celebrated. It won't be. There will be people who will poo-poo it and claim that there was shill bidding and everything else.
There's people shitting on it right now. And
of course there is,
because that's sour grapes.
Yeah, because and you know what, to have sour grapes over something that you have nothing, wrapped up.
No dog in that fight.
What do you have wrapped up in this?
But we know it was legit. We know it was legit.
You weren't the second highest bidder. You weren't the second highest bidder, and you lost it. Oh, it's still bidding. Who cares? Who gives a shit? Who cares? You know what? When the Hogan All-Star sold 54, I go, man, that's good. That's good. Yep. That's good for that section of the market. It's good for wrestling cards overall. It is. Because it brought more eyes in, and this is going to bring more eyes in, and this is what we want, and this is why it's a good thing.
So you
For a
you
long
brought
time.
up shill bidding. You brought up shill bidding. So let's talk a little bit about the process, because I think
I
a lot of
shilled
wrestlers.
the hell out of this card. I was in for 124.5, and I was like, that's it, I'm out.
Oh,
So let's-
you outbid me. Damn it.
I was in it. I was in at least 300 grand. So like a lot of wrestling collectors don't have like a lot of the context around how these processes work. There's already been posturing online of like, oh, the guy who sold it bid up his own cards. There was shill bidding. There was this. There was that. The other thing. Like, let's just sort of explain how a premier auction works, especially for Golden and for PWC. Tony, you've sold a card in one of these auctions. That's sort of one of your things as well. So you've been through this process.
Yep.
And I think what everybody needs to understand is this is like brass tacks, as simple as it gets. PWCC and Golden and Heritage and all these auction sites, this is how they make their money. And they make a considerable amount of money. So you can imagine that they have things in place to ensure the sanctity of their auctions that is completely different from eBay. So like if you're thinking about this, well, eBay, it's just you can just pull a card down and do what happened with the Rock Black and all those other things like from 2023. No. PWCC, Golden, they vet all their high-end bidders for premier auctions. All of the bids have sort of monetary sort of feelers that are put out to make sure you can pay for the card. If you bid on an auction and you win it in one of these premier auctions, it is a sale. Like, I mean, I've seen there's an exception to every rule, of course, but for the majority of a premier auction sales, whatever shows on the site, that is the price. That is who it sold. That's where it was sold. The sale is completed. Everybody should have confidence in this price. It will be on Card Ladder as soon as it's verified. I've talked to both of the high bidders who were at 100 and 105,000 bidder price. I know that they're legit individuals. One of them announced on Instagram that they had completed the sale. So like, there is no point in this discussion that we should ever question the result of this auction. Is everybody in agreement there?
Let me say
100%.
one point because this may come up about PWCC, and we're not going to get into this here, but
yeah,
a year or two ago, I think it was like 18 months ago, they came under quite a bit of scrutiny for
correct.
People accusing them of shillbilly and very sort, and the principals there were very clear to the hobby that they were going to do an internal audit of the way their systems work. So I even feel more comfortable in that particular auction house, given that they had to sort of fire hell to them to sort of say, look, you know, there needs to be integrity in how you do things here because of these accusations that had come up. And so given the fact that you spoke to the guys, you know who they are. Yeah, there's no question here, guys. And last year at this time, there were questions because it was a little bit, Adam, you heard certain things, I heard different things about the same card. So it was difficult to, to reconcile. But that isn't the case
That makes
here.
sense. Yeah.
And that's why truly, as a pricing guy, I wanted this, like, this is a great time when you have two golds and two blacks on the market at the same time. This is going to settle a lot of questions. But a real big question was answered last night, and in a very big way. And there's going to be more stuff coming when we get the result on the redo of the 2023, when we see what happens.
Unfortunately.
Yeah,
right.
and we're going to see what happens with both goals. So the 2023 gold, which was at 6 last time we checked, and what's going to happen with the one like Drake's, the number to 10. But this big rock certainly helps the others. But again, guys, just to punctuate it, this is all legit. We're not here saying, oh, it's 126 because the four of us want it to be that. The card did sell for that last night.
But wasn't PWCC messing around on eBay?
They were accused, and we can only say allegedly.
Sorry.
We can only say allegedly, yes.
And that's why they have gone to their own. They opened up their own auction house to offset not being able to use eBay.
Yeah.
But that doesn't.
They were doing some stuff before. They were doing some stuff before.
They have absolutely. But these bidders are vetted. They're all vetted. You can't just show up to an art auction in Paris and bid on a Van Gogh. You can't just do that. You can't just walk in the street and be like, "Hey, can I get a paddle?"
That's not the way it works. Yeah.
Doesn't eBay also offer that at some level? I remember years ago
they
used
do.
To do that for eBay. A buddy of mine, in my old AOL days, one of the main programmers there came from Microsoft. He came in a lot of money at the time, so I'm talking late 90s. and he, just for shits and giggles, he decided a Jimi Hendrix played guitar showed up on
That's
eBay.
awesome.
It was authenticated by the estate and blah 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 blah, and he put a bid in it for like $150,000 like that. And I'm like, how do you? Can I just? He goes, no, they vet you to make sure you actually have that money in your account before
Very
you
much
actually
so.
even place a bid. I mean, he didn't win, but I thought they had things in place like that. Is it per item or for like a dollar amount? What are you?
So basically, eBay has a couple of categories. They have their premier auction, similar to what they have for PWCC, but traditionally that wasn't offered in sports cards, and like maybe once a year. There were situations like they do it for music and art and cars. I think they have a car one like every couple of months.
Mhm.
But like they do have platforms that do it more like this. Most collectors don't use it because they want the visibility on the auction listings that were coming up every
Sure.
day. So, and because Heritage and PWCC and Golden, they have really cornered the market in a lot of these auction house listings. Like you see big news in the hobby from Golden and PWCC like weekly at this point. Ken Golden's about to have a show on Netflix. So I mean, like the idea that this is becoming a more commonplace way of moving big trading cards is very clear. Like this wasn't the way it was in 2010. People would only use these types of big auction lots for game used merchandise, Super Bowl rings, World Series type memorabilia. Like that's where these auctions usually
Remember, we
were
didn't have
served.
the number. Remember 2010, we didn't have the numbers though. Now we're entering
Correct.
into a
Exactly
phase
correct.
in the hobby where we're getting these five figures, on a semi-regular basis, and this
Exactly correct. Yep,
blew the
you
roof
nailed
off.
it.
But yeah, that wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. But people want the security of that. Look, up here in real estate, I deal with Sotheby's, and it's very rare that I can show one of their properties without signing an NDA, regardless of what it is. So these upper end brands, they're very, very particular on who they let through, to the point about anybody being able to bid on it.
Yeah, and I think there's also like this push. There's going to be a lot of pushback on who bought this card versus why they bought this card, as well as what the implications of this sale is. So like immediately, I saw, is The Rock bidding on his own card? Is Logan Paul involved? Like, oh,
I
it's like
saw that.
no. Like there are a couple of things. The person who won this, at least from what I can tell, has a personal connection to the card, which is good. He said to me in Instagram messages recently, I want to keep this card. It's going to be vaulted, whatever. So that's good. Like he's not buying it seemingly right now for an investment, which I think would get a ton of negative feedback on the community side. But the other bidders, I think, were in it for very similar reasons. Like they were driving it because they saw this as the 52 mantle of wrestling cards, right? They were like, now I get it. Vintage modern, we'll put that away for right now. But like the market making card, right? Mickey Mantle's card just sold for a record breaking amount. They saw this as a very similar market making event. And they also have a huge connection to WWE cards. The ones that I was talking to who were bidding up, there were at least 3 in, I think, at 85.2 or 82.5, sorry. There's 2 in above the $100,000 mark at a bidder price, not with buyer's premium. So you at least had, just let's put this in perspective here. You had 2 people at least that were willing to pay over $100,000 for this card. In any universe, could you ever imagine that there would be 2 people, not one, 2 people,
and that's not
that would value this card at this amount?
That's not 2 people paying that to flip. That's 2 people that want the card. Big time.
Absolutely. It was 2 a.m., right? I didn't go to bed till 2. These were people who had stayed up. They were one is Midwest and one is East Coast, or I can't remember, but at least one is Midwest. 2 a.m. Just they said I couldn't sleep. I gotta see what happens. And they kept pushing the card. So I mean, like they wanted it, and that's so cool. Like how cool is that? Like there's this industry that Ryan and I have been on videos for many, many months now. You guys have been doing this, your monthly recaps for many, many, many months now. Most of the time, it's $500 to $2,500 cards that are topping out those types of discussions. And one time it was $50,000, maybe twice. Like, I could never. Ryan, I mean, like, you've been on these videos with me, Ryan, for so long. Like, we've talked about this. We've talked about the impact of Prizm. We've talked about the impact of the way investors look at this product, the way community looks at this product. Like, do you think like the implications of this sale are as big as we are making them. Like, what's your opinion on sort of how this could impact the market?
Yeah, God forbid, I don't want us to be put as a hype machine. Come on, let's go.
Oh God, might as well put hype boy on the back of my jersey. Go ahead.
Well, there's no more hype. It's over. It's been
Yeah,
settled.
that's not hype.
Sorry to say.
If you want to believe this and you want to come along for the ride, then you're in. If you want to poo-poo this and find some reason to find it negative, some reason to torpedo it, you're going to do that. That's just the way that people work.
That's social media. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's people in general. That's just people in general. I think if you're on the fence, I think this pushes you towards, the modern side, and maybe understanding that modern, like I said, is here to stay. If you're firmly entrenched in a certain camp and you just don't want to believe it, and you think that this is all manufactured scarcity and these cards are made, it's not real scarcity because you didn't order them out of a magazine when you went to go get your 20-cent Coke and all that other stuff. It is what it is. And I wish I could sit here and say, oh, this is going to be the unifying event that brings everybody in the wrestling community hobby together.
No, that's what Wrestling Collector Series was for.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So I think, I think that if you are open-minded and you can understand that now that Adam has gone through the steps of this bidding process, like I said, this isn't just it's not an eBay auction where I can pull a card and say, nope, I don't want to sell it to you. Or I can call up Adam and say, hey, Adam, throw a bid on it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. This is a legitimate sale.
And who would you trust to throw $100,000 bid on something? Like, I don't have many people I could call that would do that for me.
I think it'd be really interesting to see exactly how many bidders we had at like 50,000, 60,000, 80,000, 90,000. What if there was a dozen bidders at 50,000?
Yeah.
It seems like there were. I mean, it was going up pretty quickly.
So if you have, let's just say you have a dozen bidders at $50,000, that's a dozen people. That's a dozen people that we know of that are willing to throw down $50,000 on a card. At 80,000, let's say we have 4 bidders. Now we've got 4 bidders.
That goes against the argument that I've been hearing already this morning that it's an outlier. It's a unicorn. So you got to, it's just one card. Now let's talk about all the rest of them. But I don't buy that.
It is a unicorn. It is. It's a one-on-one.
But what this card does, Ryan, is that let's just say as the hours go on, the mainstream media picks up on this. The Rock himself hears about it. What's that going to do for us?
He'll tweet about it. I would like to see him tweet about it.
So the point being is that you can't use any excuse. You can't say, oh, well, what about this? There are no more what about this, what about that anymore. I mean, it's clear. It's been settled.
This is also, I've stated, and I firmly believe this. So in vintage, you're getting some high prices once in a while. Whereas with modern, you're getting $1,500, $3,000, $5,000, $12,000, $18,000. You're getting more of a consistent, what I consider a big number, $5,000 to $30,000. You're getting it more consistently with modern, and now modern has taken the crown. So, do we want to make this a pissing match between vintage and modern because it's over?
I don't think it should be. I don't think that's the right attitude to have. I really don't.
It's not. But I'm saying there's gonna be exception.
This is an overall. We're all under the same umbrella. It's all wrestling cards. I don't give two shits about 1930s, 1940s, 1980s, 2025. I don't give a shit about that stuff at all. It's all wrestling cards. Whatever lane you're picked, we've been preaching that for years. It doesn't matter. You're having fun. You're collecting. This is a good thing across the board. It should send waves to everything. Everything.
And I wish that everybody was on board, but they're not gonna be.
Here's the reality, guys, because Tony and I we do this every month. When we look at the top 10, it's a mix.
It always is.
Impeccable gold. It's wrestling all stars. Some months we're a little heavier on the newer Panini stuff. Sometimes we're a little heavier on the vintage. But never a month goes by where both sides aren't represented. So it's not so much a pissing contest about the modern guys have overtaken. All we're saying is that we now have a very big number that we can hang our hats on for a wrestling card in general, and that's awesome.
Right. And I think, Paul, that's a good point. I think here's what everybody needs to understand. Not once on any of our videos has anybody said that the vintage cards aren't valuable. Not once on any of our videos have we said that the vintage cards aren't worth being in your collection if that's your lane. We've been made into villains in a lot of different ways because of the ways that we value those cards personally and our subjective opinions as to what those cards represent. We've never hated on people for choosing the way that they collect. That's not what we're about. What we're about here, I think, is The Rock and Prizm is an insanely controversial set. Paul, you and I have had arguments about it. Tony, you and I have had arguments about it. Ryan, you and I have had arguments. Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I said when this came out that this is a landmark product, and it was met with, well, look at the wax, well, look at this, well, look at that. Not realizing that, hey, the cards that are selling in this set are selling at multipliers of where they have sold other places in the modern market. We should recognize that Prizm is driving eyes and attention in the hobby that wouldn't be there without Panini at the helm. Now, does that devalue what Topps does prior to that? Absolutely not. I love Topps cards. Like, if you could see my shelf behind me, there's just as many Topps cards on there as there are Panini cards. But with Prizm, as we're seeing last night, as we will see likely with the pending sale of the next black and the golds and all the other things that are going to come, Prizm brings eyes because it's a hobby standard that drives attention above and beyond what wrestling collectors are likely going to value. I tweeted out a couple of minutes ago, The Rock wasn't a rookie. It wasn't his first shiny card. It wasn't a PSA 10. Oh, by the way, it wasn't autographed, and it still sold for more than double what the previous record was. That's the power of Prizm. But is it a unicorn? I think is a great question to discuss, because I don't think right now, at least, that there's another card in the market, regardless of grade, unless you bring this one up to a 10, like that's the only time, that we're going to see this sale eclipse. It hasn't been produced yet. Or maybe something changes. Maybe under some crazy circumstances, The Rock runs for president and wins. Then maybe something changes. Or maybe there's some generational talent that hasn't debuted yet or hasn't made their run yet, and their cards eventually reach the level in which The Rock is, and they become the most famous person in the world like The Rock is. You know, like, those are the types of events that I think need to happen before this sale gets eclipsed. And that's really cool that we just witnessed yesterday.
Why do we, I don't understand. I mean, we understand where the prices are right now. Why are we focusing on what can break it already? Why can't we just embrace what this is right now? The real question I think to be asked is, what's this going to do to other cards in the hobby now?
Right. That was my next question.
Are we going to see a wave? Is this going to be one of those waves where, you know, all ships, you know, is it going to see other cards are going to start rising in value? Are other rock cards not a one of one? Or
great question.
How's this going to, I'm interested in seeing where this plays out in the coming weeks, where people are going to try to ride this wave and start putting out, I'm changing my prices. I had this for $1,000. I'm asking $20,000 for this card now.
And you know what, Tony, I'm already hearing from some of the naysayers that it's not. What is this going to do for the community? What is this going to do for the collector? It's not going to do anything. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What this number does is, when we walk the National this year and we say, hey, we're wrestling, you know what people are
I'm excited for that. That's going to be so much more fun now.
10 years ago, I couldn't admit that I was there for wrestling. Last year, I could say, hey, I'm here for wrestling, and half the place said, oh, yeah, you guys been coming on. This year, when we're walking the aisles and we say we're here for wrestling, we're going to hear, oh, I heard about The Rock. You know, so
oh yeah,
that's what it's going to be, guys.
Wrestling has arrived, and I think
big.
This
it is big.
This sale will affect other high-end rock cards, because I think that the next jump is, if you go backwards.
Hold on.
What?
I want to give you your spot. Let Ryan finish, and then let Tony ask your question, because it's the right question to ask. Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay, so I think that the next jump back is the gold out of 10. I think you're going to see a spike in those prices for people who are like, well, hell, if the black is 126 grand, maybe the gold's a deal at 25 grand. Maybe it's a deal at 20 grand. Whereas a year ago, maybe that card sells for significantly less.
And I think Drake mentioned yesterday that he would prefer a gold to a black, and he knows another high-end collector as well.
I can't say I agree with Drake on that one, but Ryan, that's a really good point.
126,000, of course.
Not 126,000.
Now does it?
The gold card looks nice.
Does it affect Andre? Does it affect Macho Man? Does it affect other wrestlers, I don't know. I don't know if maybe in the black market it does. It probably does, because now you have a benchmark of the best card, and then the other ones kind of fill in down the ladder. I think you may see a spike in actually like common blacks that may have been $500 to $1,000. Maybe now they're $1,200 to $1,500 to $2,000.
Man, there goes my chance at a Loomis. Okay.
And remember too, right? Remember, guys, too, that we're talking about a big delta here, because in the Magic Week in April last year, when we had the Gable and we had the Andre go at those top numbers, we're talking 15,000. We're going from 15,000 to 126. So this is an entirely different snack bracket.
It is, and so like when you start getting into like the 50 to 60,000, that's when the heavyweights, like in the premier auction, you organize by, you know, the top auctions that going at once. And you see like Mahomes and LeBron and like all. The Rock was creeping up that page pretty quickly, and you're starting to see visibility in those premier auctions that was never there for wrestling card. So you had visibility from some of these heavyweights that are seeing that card creep up, and they're just like, "What's going on here?" And I'm talking to a few of them as they're bidding on their Mahomes, you know, national treasures that sold for only $15,000 more than this. Like, that's insane to me in itself. But like, you're going to start to see, like, you know, as people watch cards go, like the FOMO, like that's what happened with Prizm Wax last year, is like started creeping up. I started watching people see, you know, Ultimate Warrior sell for $15,000 on day one. And like, it creates this snowball. Now, does that mean that there is more growth to be had in Prizm blacks and golds? I think we've always said, Ryan and I at least have always said that that's what our expectation were. I think, Paul, you've said a number of times, in the long run, you expected that to happen. So I think like all of those things, maybe
Adam, I think this transcends cards. I think, you know, like look at it.
Yeah, I agree.
Just look at it as a wrestling collectible, the dollar value that we're talking about.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
That show on A&E where the Undertaker
right,
things and all that stuff, the
treasures,
casket,
yeah.
you know. This is a piece of cardboard, 3x3.5 by 2.5, that just sold for $125,000.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, so that's the part, you know, just understanding how big a number that really is and what it represents, not just in cards, you know, figures, anything. Like
collectibles in general. Yeah, exactly.
Amount of money
yeah.
for any wrestling collectible, any collectible of anything for that matter. Like,
I expect a nice spike in sales this weekend in the store.
Yeah, Tony. Like, and here, I want to go back to Tony's question because I think it's the right one, right? Tony, if you had to look at this, who are the wrestlers that you think are targeted at least for an adjacent sort of bump, maybe? Like if you had to handicap this and you're looking at the roster of everybody that's available, what are the wrestlers that you're picking out then to say, maybe these are the guys that are going to get a bump?
But I'm not even looking at it from like just a Prizm standpoint. I'm looking across the board.
No, across. Yeah, okay. Exactly.
So I'm going to say your usual suspects. You know, Hogan benefits from this. Andre benefits from this. Ric Flair benefits from this. Warrior. I mean, all your legends are going to benefit from this. The new breed, if you want to call it anything, you know, 98 forward. I don't know. I hope Stone Cold gets a rub from this. I hope Triple H gets a rub from this. I hope, you know, a lot of these undervalued, in my opinion, cards. I hope Vince gets a big rub from this.
I was just going to say the trend.
There you go, Paul.
From this. You know,
I've been preaching this. You know, Paul's wanted one for his collection for a while. Paul's wanted that Vince for a while.
It's a massive card.
I've been preaching Vince as a sleeper hit for a couple of years now, and I'm like,
you're not wrong.
I think every card, even from the black standpoint, low numbered cards across the board, all the way from tops to Panini stuff, I think all of it gets a bump. It all gets a bump. Now, whether that bump's going to be significant or not, I don't know about that. But
yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah,
a $500 card might be, you know, maybe $750 now or something like that. You know, maybe it still gets a bump. A bump is a bump, man. Anything that's going to be beneficial to your ROI is going to be a good.
So let's look at this. Go ahead, Ryan.
I say two things real quick to the audience watching. Not all blacks are created equal. So your select black.
Exactly right.
Yeah, your select black, your select rock black is not 126 grand.
Yeah, good point.
Good point. Great point there. Yeah.
The other thing is, one of the negative points of this is I think you might have overpricing. I think that
was my follow-up question, actually.
Yeah. So I think that you will have people that pull a common Prizm black and put $8,000 on it. And in reality, it's maybe $500, $1,000. And then
And that always happens. Yeah, I
And
think
we have
that's
seen
a
it.
good way to look at
We saw that in the subsequent months, you know, in May, June, we saw a lot of guys taking their shots on that Prizm run afterwards. So we know, you know.
But some of them did sell. Like, I mean,
Oh,
Ivar
yeah,
sold
sure.
for like $1,500. It was ridiculous. But
Yeah.
Tony, like, I think you brought up a really good point here, which is there's a lot of adjacent people in this market, a lot, because there's a Mount Rushmore and more than 4 slots. You've got Rock, Hogan, Austin, Undertaker, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Like, I think Andre, you know, there's a lot of people that have major value, sometimes because they have vintage cards that have gone for a lot, sometimes because they've seen a resurgence in the modern cards and the vintage cards. Others, they're just brand new guys that got into wrestling in the last, 5 to 6 years. Like what's been happening with my favorite person, Becky Lynch. Like, I've been having to give out a ton of money because of competition. But I also think if we go back to Mickey Mantle, because I want to go back to that sale, we saw that card sell for an exorbitant amount of money, like more than The Rock could ever sniff, right? Millions of dollars. Within months, you saw 52 mantle after 52 mantle after 52 mantle hit the auction block because there are more than one of those, right? That's not a rare card. It's a rare card in high grades, but like some of the Wrestling All Stars cards are. But it's like there were more of them to go around. Here, there's only one. There's 2 if you count the 2023 in the same category, but they have the gold, which was on eBay at PSA 10 for $30K. It was since taken down. I've heard rumblings from Drake that it's going to be relisted here in an auction house. So we'll get to see what that price is going to go for. That's another adventure maybe we can get on and talk about when that happens. But we're going to see Andre Black 101, which is at a similar low grade, is going to be at PWCC, I believe. It's already been listed. There's a number of big black 101s from this set. I would guess that will be listed in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure you could see the ones that ended up in investor hands that maybe are like seeing this as an opportunity to come out from the loss that they probably have taken on some of these cards. The major hobby has dipped. I said to Paul, 65% is what we were seeing on Card Ladder and other apps, that the high end, the tippy top of the hobby has come down about 65%. This blew through that, just went right through it. But I think there's a lot of investors who bought into Prizm very early on and are still holding those cards because they're at such a loss. Maybe they come out of the woodwork here and maybe test the waters a little bit. So to Tony's question, in my opinion, I think we see a lot more people wanting to test the waters. To Ryan's sort of feedback, a little bit of overpricing is probably going to happen too.
Yeah. But just to be clear, in case people aren't 100% clear on this, we're talking about 2022 Prizm only. Not 2023, not the subsequent releases. We're talking about the flagship release of Prizm, which was always expected to be the hallmark for where things were going to go.
Exactly correct. And Paul, it's a great point because there's a couple of cards from Prizm that drive the market. One of them is the 101 blacks. One of them is the out of 10 gold. That's not the gold Prizm shimmers. That's not the blue shimmers out of 10. They may have similar numbering. Ryan and I have discussed this on a few videos. Like, everybody's got to be clear. Like, don't go diving into some of these cards thinking they're going to be the next version of the Rock. And the Rock is a transcendent talent too. So there's only a few transcendent talents in WWE. The Rock, Hogan, Austin, so on and so forth. Like Vince McMahon, I think, is in that bucket. He doesn't have a Prizm card though. So that's kind of another thing. So I think, like, when we're looking at the overall landscape of what Prizm brings to wrestling, I said this at the beginning, that it was going to be a way for the Panini affiliates across the hobby to come in and see wrestling for the first time. It did, and then it didn't. And now it kind of did again. So we're kind of like in this circular motion here, really interested to see how it's going to do. So let's talk one quick thing. The Rock's 2023 Black Prizm was sold for $10,000 to Jameson. He's been on a couple of our videos. It was then canceled. We've now seen that they want to push it back to auction. Where do we feel that one is going to be here? If that comes to Golden or PWCC in the same format as this,
I feel different than I did 2 days ago.
Yes,
it's a farther number. And we were even saying, Adam, that it might not get the 10 again. But knowing what we know now,
I agree.
Yeah, and I agree with you. But, but knowing what we know now, it could be a $40,000 or $50,000 card, couldn't it?
I think we're kind of getting to the
Right.
point now where we've got to start talking about that, right?
Right.
Maybe it
And it's
ends at
something I
15.
never thought I'd be saying 3 days ago, because there was nothing in front of me black and white that ever suggested that that was the case. But last night was
It's
the grand
insane.
revelation for me.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I have no vested interest in any of this stuff. I collect it all. I love it all. And I just want to make sure that the prices, because when we started talking a year ago about you know, this 6-figure on the rock, I was like, come on, guys, let's try and get this right for the
Right.
community. Now we've done that. Now it's there, and we're
It's
going to
there.
get
Yeah.
subsequent sales of rocks that are going to clearly establish the market for all of these. You know, we're numbers guys. We're going to interpolate the data, and Adam, you're going to write your blog, and it's going to all be very clear as to
Right.
where the stuff lands. And it's not so much anymore that you could be accused, Adam, of it being your expectation, right? Because it's all in front of us now in black and white.
But that was the thing, Paul. Like, it was never about me. Like, I've said this I've said this to you, I've said this to Tony, and like I've said this to the community too. Like, I just want wrestling cards to have their time in the sun. Like, that was always my goal. And call me a hype boy. Call me, yes, of course I am. Like, that's everybody is. Like, that's why I go to these events and I'm screaming my head off at WrestleMania, whatever. Like, that's why we do
my
this.
brother,
Because
this morning you're justification. You're
that's
you got your
the
vindication
difference.
this morning, because up until
I'll
now,
take my
there's been
flowers. Give me my flowers.
you know, get to the highest rooftop with your trumpet and you know, va, let everyone know. Because
Like laying
at the end
goodbye,
of the day,
stars look so good, man. The stars
Yeah.
look so good, you know, from inside my house, because there's no roof to my home anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like, if we're looking at this, like, ethically, nobody wants to see that card sell for more than $10,000. Like, the guy did not handle this the right way. I said before, like, when this happened to the Rock, again, with the gold that happened and sold for low price on eBay, like, I didn't think, like, at the time, like, that was a difference. I think it eventually sold privately at 21,000 and 22,000 subsequently. Like, I that's a huge gap. Like, for me, that's a small car that's a couple of payments on my mortgage, you know, like, that's a lot of money. Here, when he's pulling the card down, he's risking a lot. Like, at the time, pulling it from 10,000 down, and you had a no hassle sale, ship it and be done with it to one of the top collectors of all cards in the market, not just wrestling cards. You could have had that money in your bank account, Australian $15,000. That's a lot of money. And at the time, we were like, is he really going to get 10,000? Like, is he doing this for 2,000 extra dollars? Like, really?
And
Now?
remember, another important point too is that don't forget the Bumblebee took the tumble, right? It went down to under 10 grand, and we had that, I think it was PSA 7 raw gold land
11.4, yeah.
11.4. So, you know, honestly, until yesterday, I wouldn't have said things look the rosiest for the Rock, you know, to make such a sort of such
his stuff has cooled off. Yeah, there were golds.
You know, to get that number, you know, like, that's a real statement. You know, that's a shot across the bow to the entire hobby, not just we wrestling guys, you know.
Absolutely.
We're loving it, because we've been saying all along, hey guys, wrestling, it's on the way up, and eventually one day, boom, and it happened. But, you know, The Rock, not that I'm not bullish on The Rock. The Rock is The Rock. He's the biggest name in entertainment. But we've seen evidence that perhaps that, you know, he was going to lose some, or he has been losing some of his value. Well, that all just got thrown away last night, which is great, because it reframes the discussion properly with hard data, actual numbers that we can sink our teeth into. And when Tony and I do our next monthly, we'll sort of dissect the top of the month. We'll be talking about this in more detail, just because it's real, and it's going to change our hobby. It's a very, very significant event.
Yeah, it's a good point, Paul.
About it.
Yeah, I think you saw the select golds dip under $1,000. You've seen a lot of the Rock stuff dip because the investors have sort of migrated out. A lot of them have stayed and become collectors. Like, a lot of the people I've talked to and become good friends with came in the Prizm boom, and like, they're here, and they're community members that are great to interact with. So I don't want there to be like this idea that Panini brought no one to the table. That's the dumbest take you could ever have. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Like, you need special gloves to type that take out. Like, Panini brought a ton of people. Panini brought a ton of people this hobby in this niche, and that's fine. That's good, because look at what they've done to the community. Parts of Paul's set here are people from that boom, and you know, they wouldn't be in this set if they didn't come as a result of this, and that's great for everybody. Now, Ryan, you've had as much experience in some of the other sports as I have, and I don't want you to get tied here. So, like, I want you to have an opportunity to sort of voice your opinion too, like, as you're looking at the market and you're looking at sort of what might happen with future sales in the Rock, especially, do you think that this is a place where the community can jump off from, or do you feel like this is something that's going to continue to be a controversial subject.
Oh, it's going to be controversial. Anytime you have a first of anything, you're going to have detractors and people that promote it. Like I said before, I think that this does impact possibly other Prizm Rock cards. I think it's going to absolutely impact the 23 Prizm Black. Ethically, it was not the right thing to pull the sale. Monetarily, it was the right thing to pull the sale. The guy, and I'm not making any justifications for it, because if I was it was Jameson, right?
It was, yeah.
If I was Jameson, I'd be pissed. But
he's handling it great too. Like with such
class.
I
mean, but Jameson's a class dude. He's a class dude who understands. Just like when you sell something on eBay, you may not get paid, and if you buy something on eBay that's a good deal, you may not get it. And that's one of the flaws with eBay, and they don't give a shit. And I'll say it right now because I've been dealing with it for decades. So I think that monetarily for the 23 Black, I think you're seeing a significant boost. And keep in mind that whoever bought the 22 Black may want the 23 Black.
Yeah, that's not far
good
off.
Point.
Good point. Reading between the lines from the gentleman that bought the card and didn't end up getting it, he was hot, but like you say, Adam, he handled himself well. Like he wasn't much.
No, he's a class dude. He's a class dude.
Yeah, clearly he was, but I wouldn't be thrilled if I was him. And I've been in that
I don't think any of us would be. Exactly.
No, I've been in that situation many a time where I bought something and I didn't pay enough for it, so I don't get it. And that's a fact of life, I guess.
But yeah, I remember that the whole feelings around the way you handle yourself in this hobby is so important. And like Jameson, just before I go back to Ryan, Jameson, shout out. He's been on a number of these videos. He's a great person to have on these calls. He's incredibly knowledgeable, but he's also incredibly realistic and pragmatic. So I give him credit for the way he's handling it. Much appreciated that he's not smearing these people all over eBay and all over, Twitter. I did a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So Ryan, finish your thoughts. Sorry, sir.
Well, I was just going to go back to the race for the 23. I would assume the 23 is going to get graded. Yeah.
It has to be done in auction. Yeah.
I mean, the card looked good centering wise. It's impossible to grade a card unless the card's in front of you. You can't do it through pictures. You can't do it. What will this grade at? It can't be done. I'm sorry. It can't be done. That being said, the centering looked good on it. If there's no surface issues, maybe it's an 8, maybe it's a 9. Hell, maybe it's a 10. Who knows? If it comes out as a 10, this is going to be a big card. It's going to be a real big card.
Do the four of us agree that the grade of a 7 didn't help it at all last night?
It did not help it, but it may not have hurt it.
I don't think it hurt it.
It's a tricky
thing. I don't think it hurt it. I don't think. I think you had two guys who, when it got down to the end, they were buying the card, not the slab, obviously.
Right.
But we'll never know because that card is now out there. It's not like the Juan Soto Bowman Superfractor auto. I don't know if you guys don't do sports. So Juan Soto is a superstar for the Nationals, right? His 2015 or 2016 Bowman Chrome Superfractor auto when he was just a youngin', that card appeared on the market and the autograph ran off the card.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
It's widely circulated that this autograph went off the card. That card disappeared, showed up in a different graded holder, and someone had wiped the edge of the autograph to improve the autograph grade on a Superfractor, which is insane because that's the only card. We're not going to see this rock card cracked out and show up in a BGS 10 holder, a BGS 9.5 holder, a PSA. It's not going to get a 2 or 3 number bump from PSA. That card's going to be a 7, and that's what it is. And I don't think
even if it was a 9, I think it still gets the same number it got last night.
Yeah, I think
you're right because I think it was the card.
It was the card. And I confirmed that with the bidders, like because I was talking with both the bidders as they were sort of like battling each other going up, and or so I believe, and they're saying they wanted the card, like they wanted the card. They didn't care about the grade, whatever. For the first time ever, I think the grade was a subsequent consideration of the price than it is the primary one. Now, if this was a PSA 10, because I think the allegedly the surface on this card, especially in the back, has some problems. I think that's why it got the grade that it did. At least that's what I've been told. I haven't seen the card in person. I can't comment on it. I'm just giving you secondhand knowledge. But if it's a 10, I think this number goes a little higher. Any other grade, I don't think it does. Because I think when you get into a territory of these marketing gimmick, hyper mint grades, that's what it is. They were created to sell slabs. Like, there's a group of people who value that above and beyond any other aspect of the card. Now, when you add it into a rare card, a premium card like this one is, again, it's multipliers, it's factors of n, right? So if this was an 8, if this was a 9, I think we maybe speculate differently. We may not have come at it 35. We may have said, hey, maybe it's 50. But because it was a 7, we all tempered our expectations. With a 10, I think that's the only grade that maybe goes. And I hate grading. Like, you guys know my feeling on grading, but I can still comment on it. I can still comment on it because it's a natural sort of progression of this discussion. Like, that's the way those types of things sort of work out. But I think, to Paul's point, like, when I saw the 7, because it was bought raw, I think it was probably kept raw, because I don't think the guy posted it in a slab until we saw it pop up on the auction. You can't auction these cards without them being in a slab, I believe, from a premier auction standpoint. So it had to be graded. Authentic versus a 7, I don't know, but I think we were starting to think like, oh God, this grade is going to be the reason, like it did with the gold that sold at 11.4 being an 8, because there were already 2 that were higher at 10. Like, there's a lot of posturing that goes on with how grades will impact these prices. But this is the one time, and that I can recount, where a grade really didn't matter. If there wasn't a flying fuck out there that was given over this grade because of what this card represents.
If the grade mattered, the card wouldn't have broke 25 or 30.
Yeah, exactly,
right.
Correct. And I think we were all there. That's where we were prior to actually ending. So, I mean, like, when Paul and I were talking early in the week, like, we thought that it would get to that point and not beyond. It entered extended bidding at that point and then just blew up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, listen, guys, like, we're coming up on an hour. I don't like to go over an hour on these videos because it makes my computer go all weird when I start to edit things. But, like, I'll tell you, this card is something, like we've said all video, has created a historic moment in wrestling cards, and it should be celebrated. And it should be so much fun for all of us to come together and rejoice that our hobby is finally getting this time on stage, regardless of what camp you're in. So, just to close out this video, I'll go around the horn one more time. What are your final thoughts here? Anything you want to say? Tell them where they can find you, and we'll get this up today here. We'll get everybody our points here. Paul?
Yeah, so it was a fantastic night, and like, I rearranged my whole day just so that I could make sure that I could get on with you guys, because like, this needs to be chatted about, because like I say, I believe it was the most significant night that we've ever experienced in our hobby. So if everyone out there enjoys wrestling cards as much as we do, I think this is a great day. I'd like to declare this, 4/21, the day after 4/20, National Wrestling Card Rock Day.
That's good. I like that.
It's really something. And we're gonna talk about this more down the way. I'd also like to quickly thank everybody for the amazing response on the card set, especially all the stuff that's going on with all the
absolutely
shipping,
well we need a whole video just for that.
We're gonna talk more about that, but just because it's my first chance in person to put it out there to everybody, and I've been tweeting, and retweeting and all that stuff, but thanks ever so much to everybody that participated. Tony, I can't say how thrilled I was, to see how much love you were getting for how quickly the turnaround was. I live in Canada, in a world where when I buy something, if I get it 6 weeks later, that's a good thing. The fact that you were turning this shit around in like 2-3 days was just incredible. The response has been great. So to everybody, and especially you three guys, your help, Adam and Ryan, those breaks, which were really, really well received. I just want to say one big thank you to the community for that. Once again, Paul and Ann, the Wrestling Card Price Guide at card_guide. Tony?
I'm new to this. I'm
no, you're not.
I'm at wrestlingtradingcards.com. That's where I go there. All of our social media is on the bottom of every single page on the website. But I'm thrilled with the card set as well. I think it's been awesome. This week has been crazy, stressful. I spent a lot of time the last 3 days packaging and getting it out the door. I wanted people to have this quickly. I wanted them to have it quickly. you know, figuring out, and thank you, my wife, I married so good, that she was able to go and get this all taken care of, because she gets the bulk of the credit for making sure it was available online. But it was awesome. Loved having Ryan in here the other day to crack his open. It was so much fun out there. It was just great. Which it gave Nick got FOMO because of your videos, and he came in the same day.
Did
He got his set. Yeah,
he got his set. Good.
Yeah, he got his set. So but as far as last night and waking up this morning, monumental day, guys. I think we've all hit it and said the same thing. It's just as a longtime collector, a longtime guy in this hobby, going through everything I've gone through with WTC, before that Collect, and before that there was nothing. It's just it's awesome. It's awesome to see decades worth of love and passion for this hobby, seeing its day in the sun, man. And if you just can't get your head around what a monumental thing this is for our hobby, and you still got to take a stance for one way or the other, I'm sorry for you, man. I really am. I wish you well. I really do. I don't have time for the bullshit negativity that goes on between, well, I like this and this is that, but I don't care. I play Switzerland for a reason. I've spent too many years building up a brand that I think has been very helpful to the hobby all these years. I've connected with great people over the years that have a passion for this hobby, and to see it come to what it came to last night, and that there are people who are sort of outside of our hobby, but are intrigued by what we have to offer and are helping our platform more. I'm all for that, man. I'm all for that. And I think it's been a great day. I agree with you, Paul. Today should be National Rock 421 Day.
There was no really coming down from this high. Yes, absolutely.
No, it's just amazing to me. So thanks,
amen,
man.
brother. Amen. All right, Ryan, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, are we gonna do a short video on the card set? We're gonna do that?
We will. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't want to get too far in the weeds with that, so I'll just keep my thoughts to the rock card. You know, I'm just gonna say what everybody else said here. It's a great day. Embrace it, enjoy it. Know that wrestling cards are here. People are interested in them outside coming in. The National is going to be bonkers this year. It is going to be, if you are a wrestling collector, you need to get to Chicago this year.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want to say, because I know we're still working on stuff.
Oh, yeah, so much good stuff.
We got some stuff percolating for the wrestling community, and you get to meet me. So,
and your bangs.
That's right.
And you know that could be enough for you to book the round trip to Chicago. But seriously, if you've never been to a national and you're in the hobby, you need to go to one. Just go to one. And if you're a wrestling collector, this is the one to go to.
This is the year, buddy.
I'm gonna make that statement on April 21st. This is the year as a wrestling collector you need to go. Because last year was a lot of fun. This year is going to be incredible.
I've been telling you guys I'm 50-50 about going, you know. I've been telling you I'm 50-50 because of the store. I think I'm leaning more towards 70-30 now that I'm going.
Yeah, that's what we want to hear.
There, come on.
I like
you know you're going to be there. You know you're going to be there. Tony, just open up the store and do like an honor system.
There we go. Yeah, just one of those Amazon checkouts where they like
just leave the cash on the desk. It's fine.
I'm watching.
It's like Halloween candy. Yeah. So guys, thank you so much for rearranging everything to hop on quickly and have this discussion. It's been awesome to finally have this quartet on a video. We've been talking about it for so long, and I'm really excited we got to do it. A lot of really good stuff was shared. A couple of points here. One, we're going to have a ton of content for NSCC. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so. We're also going to have some giveaways in regards to the set coming up, I would assume. A few other things percolating, as Ryan was saying, about the actual event. But, like, stay tuned to this channel. There's so much content here. I mean, Tony and Paul do such a good job with all of their stuff. I know Ryan and I are planning a bunch more videos. So, I mean, like, this is about to become the hub of YouTube wrestling for a lot of reasons. And this sale just it highlights why this is the channel to watch, because these are the things that all four of us have been talking about now for a full year, and we're finally getting to a point where we can point back at all those videos and say, hey, go watch them all. But
let me interject here for a second too, because you know, as the owner of the channel here, it's like that, you know, I get a lot of criticism that you know, for what kind of content I'm allowing, or personalities that I allow on the channel. And to that, I've always said I don't give a shit. Because as long as things weren't being people weren't being slandered, this and that. I find what you guys do to be extremely educational to people who are just getting into the hobby for the first time, people who are maybe of the old school mind, getting into like, what's new? What is about this new stuff? I myself, I know about these brand names, but I learned so much more. And I think I've always done that with my hobby, is always gone through and just try to learn and absorb as much as I can. I keep one foot on both sides of the camp at all times.
Right.
And there wasn't really a camp, but you know, Paul and I have been through this together for 20 years. I mean, and so seeing what's growing on the channel itself, and I've encouraged other people. I'd love to have like Caleb on and have Caleb doing all indie stuff and having guests who specialize in indie just coming on and talking about indie cards. I'd love to have all kinds of opinions on there, all kinds of opinions.
That was always the vision. Yeah.
That was always the vision. When I said like a year and a half ago, God, maybe I should make it like the WTC network. That'd be kind of cool. You know what? And in that network, they're called playlists. Okay. Yeah. So the playlists, think of them as channels. I don't like that channel. They don't play my programming. Then don't fucking watch it. Go to the next one.
Tony's giving no fucks on what he's saying right now.
I don't care anymore.
And just to piggyback on that, anybody watching, if you have a topic or something you specialize in that we don't cover, look, Adam and I are modern guys. We're tracking Panini and some of the kind of the last stages of Topps. We're gonna track Fanatics whenever they eventually get the license as well. If you have a topic that you want to talk about, contact one of us, and we'll see if we can make it work. We'll bring you on.
Do it yourself. Like Tony is always made the channel available.
But you know what? Maybe they're not comfortable doing their own video. Maybe they're not for the first time.
Right.
So come on.
There are people like that, and I get it. Hell, I was uncomfortable in the first one I did. I've made it stated the case many times. I did this in the beginning for 3 purposes, and 2 of those purposes were to get over fears of certain things. So come a long way.
Well, it turned out well. It's turned out well.
So it's just again, I just want to commend you guys for what you guys do for the channel.
I'd like to do the same, echo the sentiment that your stuff, guys, since you've been doing it over these last few months, it's been very educational, very informational.
Thank you.
And look, we all know that we've heard out in the wild that the Prizm hype boy. Well, guess what?
Right.
As of last night, it ain't hype anymore.
Yeah, no, and like that was the thing. Like, if you watch these videos, we don't get on these videos and just completely trash everything. Like, we're here to educate and to have fun. Like, that's why we do. Like, I went to college for English, so I love communication. I love blogging. You've seen my sites, all those things. Like, that's why we do this. I'm not here to my collection. Everything I buy. I post literally everything I buy on Instagram. So like, my hype is to get wrestling cards to the stage that it deserves. I think I've been a part of this community since 2017. I help run one of the biggest communities on Facebook. Like, there's a lot here that we can offer in this channel. Like and subscribe, be a part of it as much as you can. Listen to what Paul and Tony do too. So if, like Paul is saying, and Tony is saying, if you don't like the modern content and you want more of a balanced approach, you have it right here. Just go to one of the other playlists. It's available. There's a lot of content here that will be coming as well around some of the events that the hobby is putting on, whether that's events like, actual wrestling events or things like the national convention. Like, those are the things that we want to get you guys more information about. We're going to offer more opportunity for the community to get engaged, not just with this set, but other places as well. So I know we're kind of coming up on the end here, but thank you guys. You can find us on this channel all over the place. These are the 4 people that are the most visible in that. You can find me on Twitter at SC Uncensored with all my horrible takes. Just tell me to shut up. I'll only yell louder. And then on Instagram, you can see my collection at WWE Gelman. And I can't thank you guys enough. This was so much fun to finally get on the call with you guys. So, hey, this is it. This is what we're talking about. Like, these are the types of things that we want to bring over and over and over again. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you guys later.